Hello, everybody. I'm Portia Sabin. I'm the president of the Music Business Association. Welcome to our very first Music Biz Live of 2021. I can't believe it's 2021. I can't believe 2021 is off to this crazy of a start. I thought we'd get a break after 2020, but I was quite incorrect. Anyway, let me just start by doing a little bit of housekeeping. As you all probably know, the chat is the place to introduce yourselves and network and chat. Put your contact information in there. This is a great place to meet people. The Q&A box is where you can put questions for my guests. If we get to questions at the end of the session, I will look for the questions in the Q&A box. I can't guarantee we will get time for questions, but if you have them, please feel free to put them in there and we'll see what we can do. So without further ado, I'm so excited for my two guests today. Nicole Wyskoarko is the co-head of A&R, Interscope, Geffen A&M, and Baroline Diaz is the senior director of A&R, also at Interscope, Geffen A&M. And I am just so excited to have the two of them with me today and get into this discussion. So welcome, Nicole and Baroline. There we go.
Hi,
awesome.
Portia.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Oh, wow. I just want to dive right in because I know you guys have an amazing working relationship and probably a great personal relationship. I kind of want to just dive into this and say, tell us how you first met each other. Where was it? How did it happen?
So I actually met Nicole.
Baroline, you got it.
I met Nicole in New York at 4040 Club. She was actually the attorney representing one of my close friends, Save, who's an artist now. He's signed to RCA. And she was representing him at the time. And we got cool like that. And then, I don't know, Nicole just has an amazing personality. We connected a few times and we got a bit closer when I did my transition from working at Def Jam to going to Columbia. And the story's gonna get funnier within time, but yeah, I met Nicole through one of my really good friends who she was representing at the time.
Yeah, so I think that, the interesting thing about that for me was, aside from, Baroline just having an amazing spirit and heart and just being an amazing person, seeing her out just in the field in a sense, meeting her in that space as opposed to Baroline wasn't someone that reached out to me, for guidance or anything like that. I actually encountered her, with one of my clients and, I saw that she was just, truly just like hustling, with work, trying to just, get her hands dirty and things, find, where she could be helpful, working with artists, working with people that, I know and respect. So I just saw her in that space. So she stood out to me because she was so young and I saw how she was moving around. And I just knew with that hustle, it's like, there's something here, like, this girl's not going to take no for an answer, and she's going to keep moving forward and she's going to get somewhere. And I saw the passion, for what she was doing too. So I was just curious and, we became friends and I wanted to make sure that I was someone there on her journey that, she could just talk to because I saw that early hustle. And, what happened later on is Baroline mentioned she was also, she had started working at a label at Def Jam, and through her career trajectory, I didn't know we would end up working together. I was just viewing myself more as someone that, if she has questions or needs advice, I'm here to help and support. But if things do align at some point, of course, I, absolutely, welcome that opportunity. But I was really just more thinking of, hey, if, she's figuring things out, I just want to be someone that she could talk to.
What is funny about that for me, Nicole, is, I ran a record label for 13 years and you guys are both in A&R. And I feel like that experience is what we really find when we find bands out in the world, right? Like when you see a band live and you're just like, oh, this band is happening, right? They are moving. They have what it takes as in themselves to be successful. And I think that's amazing. You just saw that in Baroline as an executive. You're like, oh, this woman has what it takes. She's going places. Because I always say that to bands. It's like, you be a train that people want to get on.
And that's a great way of putting it. It was like, she was a train that, yeah, it's like, I want to be part of that. I want to be helpful if I can be. And, Baroline was talking about some of the stories as it gets a little bit funnier later on. But, as she said, we became friends. And, I remember later on, this was also before we started working together, we all went down to Coachella and, Baroline, I hope it's okay if I share this story, but,
Yeah.
at one point, and this was, she mentioned an artist that she was working with at the time that was a client. So we were all together at Coachella just to like take it in and enjoy the performances. And at one point we lost Baroline. Like we literally lost her in the crowd. We had no idea where she was. And while she was lost, of the many artists that she encountered, we finally found her and you know, not only did she come back she had met Cardi B at the time and had a picture, to show. But we wanted to see the Miguel performance, and she's like, no, I'm here. We found her at the Miguel performance, and she was on the other side. She's like, come on, I'll bring you backstage. And just so early on, seeing how she was moving around and her hustle and how she was just going to find her way around, and the fact that even though we lost her, she clearly was not lost. She was ready to show us and guide us around Coachella. She always just stood out to me as being someone special.
Well, Baroline, I think we better give you a chance to talk about, so Nicole is not much older than you, but she's been in the business a little bit longer. You met her when you were younger, so not that you're much older now. So how has she been sort of, an assistant to you in your career, a mentor for you?
I think from the beginning, because so the story goes like this. I had gotten an opportunity to be an A&R at Columbia Records. So when I got the job at Columbia, it was just because of hustle. Like they hired me because they knew I was in the streets. I could get near any artist, all of that. I didn't know what A&R did. I didn't know nothing. I just knew I knew a good song. So I was literally got this job title as an A&R. I was in New York still, living in my mom's house uptown, getting on the train every day. And I thought I was the coolest girl ever. I was like, I got my first job. I'm at Sony. I'm in the building. That's when it comes to hustle, my thing is get in the building first. Like you get in the building, you work the room. So I remember my first day at Columbia, I'm blasting music, and all these people are like, "Who the hell is this girl they let in here?" And I'm blasting music, and I'm just having a field day. And the transition happened really fast at Columbia because some certain things happen for different reasons. So it was my transition to move on to something else. And in the midst of that, a couple of people came to me with opportunities. And Nicole, being my friend, Nicole was an attorney. I don't know nothing about a contract or paperwork. And I called Nicole one day and I'm like, hey, so and so is offering me a job position. And she's like, well, maybe this is what you should ask for. This why. Then I called her again and I told her, here, if somebody else is interested. She said, hold on, I'm gonna call you back. And when she called me back, she was like, well, I spoke to Joey and me and Joey want you to come work at Interscope. And I said, in California? I said, what the hell am I gonna do in California? I never have left my mom's house ever. So I'm like, wow. And it's crazy when Nicole says me knowing people. I already knew Sycamore and I already knew Pusha Rod and I knew all the boys that were at the A&R team. So I just sat there and I was like, maybe I should just make the move. Like something just, God just told me, like, you should make the move. And it was her just being a friend. It wasn't her, it just happened. It was like kind of crazy how her just giving me the information and then just ended up working with her. And it's just crazy. And Nicole has gotten emotional a couple times. I want her to get emotional again and announce that Nicole was like the only girl over there. So it was all these boys and just Nicole. And then when I came, it was like, hey, Nicole, I'm in your office. I was in Nicole's office every day. And it was just like a big sister. Like I remember the first day I came and I literally landed. I'm like, Nicole, come see me. And it's just like, she's like family. It's not just work. Like I know her mom. I know her family. She knows my mom. And it's amazing to have somebody like that, especially a woman, because this is a male dominated industry. Like I'm around men 24/7. From the moment I leave the studio to I'm at a video shoot, I'm always the only girl. So to have a woman, especially somebody that is my boss, and I also look up to that, I could just call and say, "Girl, I'm having a female day. Like I'm emotional, I'm depressed, I'm happy, I'm this," and I could always count on her is amazing. And it happened naturally. I feel like nowadays a lot of kids want mentorships and they want mentors and they
Mhm.
reach out to people just because they have a lot of followers on Instagram or they see what they're successing. But sometimes when things just happen naturally and you just fall in the lap of somebody and God brings you those blessings, it always works out 10 times better that way. But it's just like we were just aligned. It was just kind of
Yeah.
crazy. And then she from New York, we know all the same people. It's just crazy.
Well, let me not fully claim New York. I spent half my life there, but I
Yeah.
was born and raised in California. But you know, Baroline's New York hustle and vibe, like I just it gave me a piece of the other side of my experience in my life too, which was also comforting for me to have too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that connection. Baroline, now I'm dying to hear, like, how do you like California? I'm
I
from New
don't,
York too, so it's
you
like a
know,
very different place.
it's so weird. So like even John he's here at my apartment. He's like, "Why the hell do you move over here?" I'm like, "Cause I live in the downtown area. It just makes me feel like the big buildings, and I feel like I'm in New York." But it's cool. I don't know how to drive yet. I need to learn. Hopefully this will be the year I learn how to drive a car because all I do is Uber.
Oh my God.
But it's just like, it's a different peace of mind. It's kind of relaxing. Now with COVID, I'm home a lot when I'm in LA. So it's different. But when I first got here, it was a lot of party scene and all of that. But for work, my job, a lot of
Mm,
artists like to record in LA. So, it's good for those reasons.
yeah, definitely. So, Nicole, did you have a mentor at any time in your journey?
I had different mentors informally, and as Baroline said, our relationship was organic, and it grew into really, like, it really feels like she's a sister to me, um, and I had mentors kind of in the same way, where it wasn't a formal program, or it wasn't, there was nothing really formal about it. There were people that I'd say, as I was coming up as an attorney, I had attorneys around me that were amazing mentors with what I was doing and how to navigate things, within the organization, and just teaching me, like when I first started in the business and legal affairs department, at a label, it was also all men at the time, but they did take me in kind of like a younger sister, and were very honest with me, like, "Hey, what you're doing right here, like, not good." Like that, what you didn't do a good job, do better next time, or this, you did great here. But they didn't hold back. And that was how I learned. And then there were people outside of the lawyers around me that I kind of maybe adopted in the background as mentors. I watched and studied and observed what they were doing. So, everyone from, like, when I first started, Tina Davis was head of A&R at Def Jam. And, we're friends today. And at the time, she was always incredibly sweet to me, but, we didn't have any sort of formal mentorship relationship. And I didn't even know at the time that I would be able to take this trajectory. But just seeing her way of moving, and how she ran her department, how she carried herself, it always, resonated with me. And there were other women, like, Lisa Brunson, who became one of my closest friends, that I just observed how they handled themselves very early on when I was first coming in. And I took lessons from that. So there were a lot of informal mentors, and I continued that along the way. And I've heard this from other people that maybe came up around the time that I did, where you took bits and pieces from people, and you saw different things and you kind of pieced it all together, because there also wasn't one person that I felt fully encompassed all of the things that I was interested in either. So I just took from here and took from there and took from there. And people also mentored me maybe in specific moments, You know, there are people that maybe weren't like a long-term mentorship relationship, but in a particular situation, they helped guide me through that. And, you know, I am so appreciative of that.
Yeah,
you know,
no, that's critical too. Yeah.
But today, you know, like I also have like a formal mentor through our company. You know, through UMG, we launched a mentorship program that was tied through our task force for meaningful change. And I have a mentee now. And it's, you know, it's great because I didn't have that opportunity when I was coming up. And now I have a mentee that's also taking like, you know, a legal trajectory, and I'm able to help provide guidance there. So, you know, I think it's, whether you find it formally or informally, it's so important to have those relationships.
Absolutely. And another thing you said when you were describing Baroline's personality, you know, it reminds me, we did a big driving change, diversity and inclusion event last year, and we had a great panel in HR, human resources, and everybody on that panel was saying the same thing, which is hire the person, not for the job specifically. And it really made me think, like, clearly to you, Baroline was the person. Like, this woman is incredible in herself. And then, you know, you found a job, like a job appeared when the time was right. So
Yeah, and
that's very exciting.
yeah, I agree with that, because even like how I said, like I didn't know everything when I started the position. Like I was able to ask questions. Like my first week, I probably asked 1,000 questions, but after I ask the questions and or I make a mistake, I already know how to do it. So it's not like rocket science. You just learn the business and learn as you go. And you look at the people around you and you ask a lot of questions. I feel like some people are scared to ask questions, but I'm not, because if that's what's gonna help me get to the next level, why not ask?
Exactly. Yeah. And Portia, I
Exactly.
absolutely agree with you. I frequently look at hires as, you know, the people. You know, of course, you're like, you know, you want to know what the goals are and, you know, where your interests lie. But, you know, if you look at the overall person and what their qualities are, like what drives them, how do they work, you know, what is their work ethic, how do they, you know, interact with individuals, how do they problem solve, then you can kind of figure out too that, you know, where they could fit, or you could, you know, create things sometimes. And, you know, and I experienced that in my career as well. You know, I think, as a lot of people know, when I first came to Interscope, you know, I started in a position that didn't previously exist because, you know, our leadership at the company, you know, John and Steve Berman and Joey at the time, they all saw that I had certain qualities that we could kind of build around. And, you know, I think they made the right decision.
Yeah. But that's sort of, you know, I wanted to get to this question at one point anyway, because I think what's really interesting in our industry right now is we're seeing a lot of co-heads come up across the industry. And I really love that model, because I love the idea, you know, I think it's a very patriarchal standard that we've had this sort of like one, usually white, usually male guy at the top, and then everything flows down from there. So I love this co-head model, because it's sort of like, it's almost like, it's like two heads are better than one. It's like two different people approaching the same problem. It invokes the spirit of cooperation in a way that I think can only benefit everybody in the organization.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I'm someone that really believes in partnership. You know, I welcome different perspectives, and I like working with other people personally. But I also think that, you know, with these co-head models, and it depends on the people involved. You know, you have to have the right fit of individuals, you know, for a partnership. But I think it also is a creative way, as you pointed out, to create more opportunity, you know, and to just adjust and change old models, because, you know, why does a certain role only need to have one person? Like who said that that's just the set, standard or golden rule? We can make adjustments for what makes sense for the skill set for the individuals we have and how people work together. And in doing so and being creative in how we create and mold and adjust certain roles, it also opens up more opportunity because, as you pointed out, now there isn't just one slot. So if it was just, your traditional, okay, it's this white male, if you can be creative and say, hey, there's a partnership that could work well here, then, you can open it up to, well, now we could also have a woman, or we could also have a person of color or woman of color, so whatever it is. So it creates more opportunities, of course. And, I think our company has been, again, not to brag, but, I hope, I do see it in other companies, as well, having co-head models. But I think overall, we're really great at making adjustments. We're not set in, this is the only way to do things. This is the only model. If it makes sense and we're going to get, the results we want, or we're going to move in, an area of more growth or better results, then why not make adjustments and make changes?
Absolutely. So Baroline, I want to hear from you because, I think what we've heard is that you have this, natural innate sense of like skill set and ability and affinity for musicians and artists and working with artists. But I want to know, now that you've done this job for a little while, like, how do you feel about the formal job of A&R? Like, can you talk about the difference between just doing it on your own and like formally doing it?
I feel like that's a good question because I don't know if you know about Clubhouse. A&Rs get attacked all day on Clubhouse. That's like the number one thing. Is attack the A&R, the A&R. The A&R doesn't do anything. So I mean, there's different forms of A&R now that I think about it. There's the A&R that just go sign the artist and bring them to the label. There's the A&R who just picks beats and sends the beats to the artist. There's the A&R that's in the room with the artist. I feel like I try to do everything, and sometimes I try to do more than my job because I just want to feel so connected to my artist. Like for the baby, for example, like when the baby first got signed to Interscope, like I was everywhere with the baby. Like it wasn't a show, interview, anything that I wasn't there with the baby, and that's where we created a bond to where he trusted my insight on music, on features, on things that he should do. So I feel like for me as an A&R, like I like to be involved with the artist. I like to be my opinion matters. Like I feel like this feature is important for us to have. This makes sense. This doesn't make sense. I don't like this record. Like I'm not scared to be honest with the artist and say when I don't like something. I'm not a yes person. I'm not here to be like, yes, I
Oh,
love every song that you do because I don't. So that's just my opinion.
yeah.
And I may not be right all the time. I may not be wrong, but I always make sure that my artist feel understands where I'm looking at it. And artist careers, everybody's career is not the same. I have artists that have the craziest acts, and I just be like, that it's not your time to do certain things like that. It's not your time or your path to move that certain way. Maybe we should create your own path. Like maybe we should do this instead of what you see online because right now with artists, they're just on social media all day. So they see what artists that have accomplished certain things or may have a bigger record with them is doing and they want to do that. And it's like you can have that same thing, but there's a layout and a format for you. So I just try to talk to my artists a lot and get to know where they are. I have a lot of artists too that some of them I want to make sure their mental health is right. So I offer like, I know a therapist that you could talk to? Do you want to talk to a therapist? Some of them are open to it. Some of them are open to it, but they're not willing to have those conversations yet. I'm the one in the studio telling them not to do certain things just because I care about the artist's well being. Sometimes, but like people are so caught up on these artists breaking good music, but their mental health isn't right. They have friends that they're losing, family that they're losing. So sometimes they just need somebody to have a conversation with. So I just try to be also their friend sometime and like a big sister, little sister, and make sure that they're straight because I think right now with COVID and everything, mental health is important for these artists. And the music is the form that they release their strength and how this is why people love them is because of their music. And I just try to understand like artists are human too. They have a lot to deal with. They have a lot more to deal with because everybody just thinks of them so highly, and some of them just need a hug sometimes. So yeah, my life is all about my artists. So I'm gonna try to separate a little bit this year, make it a little bit about Baroline, a lot more. But yeah, I just want to make sure that my artists are happy, especially when we sign artists at the label, especially at Interscope. It's not about just signing the artist and saying, "Hey, we got the artist," because after Interscope signs you, we have to show and prove why we signed you to Interscope and why we're the best label. We don't try to sign artists to win a bidding war because after the bidding war is done, the artist is there. So I think Interscope really stands on building longevity careers and
Hmm.
with some of the artists I have now, like Little Papa, we released his first project when I came out. It was like 150, 186 on the charts. Now he's sitting on 15, 20 now when he drops. And it's about telling the artist too, like, we're going to build the longevity career. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't. I'll be lying if I tell you you're going to be the biggest artist. Some it does, some it doesn't. And they just have to understand that. And I feel like we're very transparent with that. We have amazing people that work in our staff. So I just think we have a great team, and me, I have a different work ethic with my artists. So I think that's what makes, and I'm outside. I'm you any city, any weather, I'm out there and I be going by myself. And that's why the artists be like, what? I be in Detroit, Atlanta, Philly, you name the city, I'm pulling up and I show up and show out. And some people don't do that. So when they see me
Yeah.
everywhere, they be like, "Oh, Baroline, she be everywhere with artists."
Have you figured out what your limit is, like the total like number of artists you can work with? Because it really sounds like you give a lot of yourself to your artists.
Yeah, I have 10 right now, and I mean, like, it's a lot, but it's kind of weird because when certain artists release a project, you get like a little break, and it's like, okay, he
Hmm.
put out his project, so I'll make sure he's good. He'll just go to the studio, and then I'll figure out what the other one. But I mean, I'm able to. I think I've gotten a flow. At first, I was a little overwhelmed, but I think I've gotten a flow of how to break them down and how to speak to them. And sometimes some of them be mad at me, so they be out my way, and then I go to the other one. But it's always a love and hate relationship with your artists. They hate you one day, then they love you the next. So it's be fine.
But there's a lot of trust, right? Like it sounds like that's the most
Yeah,
important thing
trust,
is developing
trust, and
trust.
especially with the managers. Like I'm always talking to the managers all the time, making sure they're good. Because I'm not gonna see them all the time, but I speak to management. And I make sure we all in the loop, and I'm kept in conversations and all of that.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a big job. I mean,
Nicole is busy too. Nicole, I'll be like, Nicole, how you do it? Nicole has a whole entire label. I just have a few artists. She got everybody. I'm like, oh my God.
It's a balance.
Yeah.
it
But
definitely
even
is a
mental
balance.
health for executives is important. Like,
Hmm.
sometimes us, like, we so caught up in every artist. Sometimes I'll be like, whoa, you have to pause and take a second. Like, we shouldn't be waking up and the first thing we do is answer an email. We need like at least an hour for ourselves because sometimes we will lose control. Like there's times that I'm calling Nicole and I'm like, I am depressed. Like I don't even know why I'm depressed, but I'm not happy. And I get out of it. It takes me time, but I'm also a human and I feel like executives is important for us to take care of ourselves, which is go get your hair done, your nails done, call a family member, call a friend that doesn't work in the music industry so you don't have to talk about it. It's okay to do that. So I just think it's important for executives to make sure that their mental is right. Because if I'm not okay mentally and physically, I can make sure 10 other people are okay. So
Hmm.
I'm learning to like take time for myself and just appreciate myself and even the little wins, big wins, pat myself in the back and keep it moving. But know that there's always more to come. But the most important person is ourselves because that's the only way that we're gonna help other people win.
Yeah. Yeah, you're more than correct. I mean, we have a big announcement coming up later this week that we're actually starting a mental health fund for Music Biz member employees and people who lost their jobs during the pandemic because it's just
Yeah.
critical right now. People really need to take care of themselves. Um, but Nicole, I just wanted to talk to you guys both, but like specifically where we are right now, at this moment in history. I think we have a big opportunity in the music industry, right? To move forward on racial justice, racial equity, and gender equity at this point. I think what's cool about the music industry in 2021 is we have a deeper bench now than we ever had. I've been in the music industry 20 years. And in terms of, like we were talking about with co-heads, spots that come open, spots you can create for people, those people are now there. They didn't used to be there. They didn't even used to be able to get in. And now really we have quite a lot of amazing folks in this industry that we can now move forward, move up, bring into the conversation. But I just think that to me, that's like our work from now on, right? As an industry, because we're so uniquely positioned as an industry, because, the music industry is built on the art of Black and brown people, and oppressed people and marginalized people. So this is, this should be our focus, I think. I just wanted to throw this out there for you guys to comment on.
I couldn't agree with you more. It absolutely needs to be a focus for us all. And, I do feel proud in that I think we've all mobilized and started to make it, a focus and make these issues a priority. There's, of course, so much more to do, and I think it's also important to recognize that, these are ongoing long-term efforts. It's not something that's going to change overnight, because these are issues that didn't develop just overnight. They've been in existence for, an incredibly long time. So we have to stay dedicated. But seeing what we've done as far as, like I think I mentioned earlier, being part of the UMG's task force, on the Interscope side, having, our diversity groups and initiatives and community initiatives, seeing that labels and different companies and people, individuals in the industry are making it a point to, create, whether it's task force or groups or just, to create initiatives to make change. I am very proud, today to be in an industry that is taking this seriously, taking these issues that are important to me personally, and seeing what we've accomplished so far, just, in a year, impacting our internal, employee community. We have an HBCU program that launched at the end of this past year at UMG. That's, I think, revolutionary for us because of the support that it's providing and how focused it is on just like long-term hiring, the mentorship programs that we've started, the work that we did with voting initiatives and just mobilizing there, the initiatives globally. Like, it's great to see what we've done in a short period of time, but it can't stop, and there's so much more. There's so much more to do and so much more that needs to be done. So I feel hopeful, I guess, and just happy that it's something that isn't in the background, or background conversation, that these issues are at the forefront of our conversations.
Yeah, as they need to be and as they need to stay. Like you said, this needs to continue. And I think it will. To me, it feels different. I don't know how it feels to you, but it feels different to me.
Yeah, right, it definitely feels different. There's, like, when I say that there's still so much more to do, it's like, look at what happened last week, like it's still a very crazy country right now in the environment we're all living and working in. So there's a lot more to do, but seeing our artist community, seeing, the managers, seeing, agents, just everyone kind of coming together and saying, like, we have to work together to help make these changes and impact our community and be responsible, makes me hopeful.
That's great. Baroline, how do you feel about, the role that you play in educating your artists about just, the business part of doing this? Because you were saying, you know, you were saying before that, like, I mean, you really resonated with me because I've been doing this a long time. And 20 years ago, I'm here to tell you, artists were also calling me and saying, hey, this other band got this. Why don't I have that? You know, and it's like now with social media, it's worse because it's instant, right? It's like the second it happens, they're like, why don't I have this thing? And it's like, that's not your path, whatever. But I just feel like there's so much of the music industry that people need to understand. And often artists are like the last people who understand why things happen the way they do. So I just wanted to ask you, like, how can executives help artists understand?
I mean, for me personally, I also have a tight relationship with all the music attorneys for my artists. So when it comes time to do splits and pay producers and all of that, I always make sure that the attorneys and management keep the artists looped in. Like, I understand managers have to make decisions, but sometimes I like for the artist to know, like, well, this is what this producer is asking for. This is this information and stuff like that. And like with samples too, like some artists feel like, hey, I could just put out this song with this sample. I don't got to get it cleared. And it's like, well, how about if this song tomorrow becomes the biggest song in the world and you didn't pay an artist for their creation because it's not originally yours? Then what do you do? Then you have to deal with. Oh wait, hold on. Then you have to deal with. Y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then you have to deal with like the backlash of now you being sued by an artist and all this information. So I just make sure that the artist always knows what they're doing when they make decisions. Like you can't just put out songs without speaking to a producer and stuff like that. And then when stuff actually happens, they be like, "Oh, you were right." Oh, I see. They send me articles like this person being sued for this sample. I told them I'm having the conversation with you because I want you to know because at the end of the day is your career, your representation of the music. You know what I'm saying? So I always make sure that the managers and everybody is in conversations and they always are in looped in with everything. And Nicole also like we have times where excuse me, an artist will call and be like, I have a certain question about my contract. And I'm like, hold on, I'm not a person that can really tell you certain things. I'll connect you with Nicole or with somebody on the team. You know, so people always have questions. You also got to make sure that you stay true to the artist and let them know what they sign because some people, you know, it's just a business. Some people don't know everything. So Nicole never has a problem with calling somebody and explaining certain things. And I don't answer questions if I don't know 100% what it means. So if they ask me about certain things, I'll just be like, hey, Nicole will call you or somebody else will explain, or maybe we should have a call with your attorney.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's, the transparency,
Mhm.
um, and, where you can answer questions and um, be helpful and be honest, we answer what we are able to answer. And if it's something that's not appropriate for us to answer, or we don't have the answer, you want to make sure that you're pointing, that artist or that manager or, whoever it is in the right direction, to help get the information that they need. It's like, we're not here to keep them in the dark. I think, to Baroline's point, the more knowledgeable everybody is about, just the whole process, the better decisions you'll be able to make and the more strategic you can be. In particular, like using the example of like a sample, it sounds like something sometimes that comes up, it's just a business decision. But, from the creative side, if you have some understanding of the business side of, the issues there, the clearances, or, who to talk to, enlighten yourself on how to strategize there, you can make the best creative decision with your artist and you can get the results that you want. So I think that that's really important to just, you got to be as straight up and honest because these are careers and dreams of and the creative of an artist. And we're really here to help, bring that vision and bring that creative to light. So it's just so important that, we help in any way to make that happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think also like Baroline said it earlier, we want these artists to have careers. We don't want them to be just one hit song and then gone. and who knows what they're doing. We want them to be career artists, and to help artists have careers, they do have to understand, and not even getting into the nitty gritty of what,
Right.
legal stuff, but just the fact that there is somebody that you should call if you want to
Exactly.
clear a sample. Like, just the idea that, just having that understanding is like what we need artists to have, because it's like the two sides of the music business equation. If we're going to move forward and have more justice, more equity, and more sharing of the wealth, is not only moving up Black and brown and female executives and others, but also empowering artists to understand that they are in a business situation, and if someone's going to make money in the business, they should really be making that money, them and some other folks, but like definitely not other folks and not them. I always feel like that needs to be centralized.
Yeah, it's like, it might make sense to explain to them like, hey, this, the sample that you don't want to clear, if you put the song out and, there's a claim, there could be a huge, financial cost to you, or maybe there's something that can be cleared, but we could do it in a way where you can maintain some of your publishing so that you can start building up your publishing. So, it is important to have those conversations and just, have a real dialogue with your artists and the managers you're working with, because the more you know what their concerns are, and the more that you also help with educating them and guiding them with this is the person to talk to for this, or this is how this works, the better results we all get.
Definitely. So let's just cycle back to mentorship to sort of close out, since this is National Mentorship Month, I think, January, just as it happens randomly. I'm sure you're both hit up by a lot of people now, saying, hey, will you mentor me? How do I get a mentor? Or how do I do this? What advice do you have for people? Because it certainly sounds like your own relationship was very organic. And those opportunities do come along. It's not, like that's the only time that's ever happened in history. But for those people who are really seeking that, what do you suggest?
I mean, personally, I think you have to be open to when it's not super formalized, and you have to be open to those organic situations and recognize sometimes that, you might have a mentor in someone, even though they may not have said specifically, hey, I'm your mentor, or, they didn't specifically sign up for, hey, I'm going to be your mentor. But if you see someone making that effort to give you advice, to take that extra time, and, when you recognize, hey, like this person doesn't need to do this, there must be, they must have some care for, me and my future, they just want to see me win for, whatever reason, recognize that, and nurture that, and see that, hey, that's an advocate, maybe in some cases, we need to look at people as who are advocates, and make sure that we lean into that when people raise their hand as someone that's supporting us. I think sometimes people get too caught up in the formality of finding a mentor, and just, I've heard of situations where someone might just look at like someone's resume, or career path, and, they've decided that, hey, this is the person that needs to mentor me. And it's a two-way relationship. So just because you say, hey, this is the person that I want to give me guidance, doesn't mean that they're going to be the best person to give you that guidance, or they might not be open to it, or they might not have the time to do it. So see who's actually just leaning in to do it. The same way that, on the flip side, I think as someone that mentors, when you see people show their hand, like Baroline, I saw her moving around. It's like, okay, I want to help in any way possible, because I see that you are just doing it anyways. Like, you're not waiting for me to say, hey, I'm going to mentor you, I'm going to give you guidance. You're moving. So when you see people just going in and doing it, that's what you should pay attention to. And I think also a lot of people that I talk to that mentor, they're looking for mentees that just start working, like the people that reach out and say, hey, how can I help you with something? Or I have this I came up with a way to make your job easier. I came up with this system. I was just thinking like, this is something that would be helpful to you. And I wanted to reach out to you to show this to you. That's how you kind of create, you know, in a way, those organic relationships. Cause it's like, oh, you're helping me. This is great. And now I got a taste of what you can do. And I want to support you in return. Keep doing this. Like, how can I help you to keep doing what you're doing?
Totally.
100%. Like bringing value to my life. Like it's like you want to pick my brain, you want to do all of this, but I also need somebody in the streets telling me what's hot too. Like I'm trying to keep up, but I'm not gonna know everything. So how is you gonna bring value into me, and why should I help you? Like everybody want to take, but they're not giving nothing in return. And just because you don't have a big role or you're not in a certain level in your career, that doesn't mean you're not able to bring something to the table. You might know something that you don't know. Like when I was coming up, my old first boss, Marilyn, she used to be like, "How do you know everything?" It's like it don't matter what I'm talking about, you know it. And I'm just like, I don't know, I just be paying attention. So it's like make yourself valuable. And if you know that I sign artists and I'm an A&R, even if I don't respond, keep hitting me up because I'm gonna see it and I'm gonna remember, oh, this person always is hitting me. They want an opportunity, or I'm gonna remember them. I think people need to learn how to bring value and actually have hustle because I always say this. There's people that want these jobs, but they don't got no hustle. They ready to go home early when they get the internship. They like, what time is it? Is it time to go home? I get to the office at 1 o'clock p.m. and then I won't leave till 11 p.m. I'll stay there. Me and Nicole be the last people leaving. I come in late, but I'm gonna leave last. Or like there's always something to do. I hate people that's like, well, I don't know what to help you with. Like there's a million things. Like
Mm-hmm.
even if you see an artist that I have and the artist doesn't post a lot on Instagram, you should be like, Baroline, maybe you should recommend him to do this on his socials. There's always something to do. So for people that's on here and like even right now, this is an opportunity. Y'all all on a chat watching this. Comment to each other, say, hey, I'm a producer from this town. If you have any artists, let me work with your producer. Or I want to be a manager. Anybody here looking for a manager? Like there's always opportunities. So use social media for a positive light because I feel like social media is just like it's like a vision board of everybody's life so perfect, but nobody shows what it took to get there. Like you're gonna see me
Mhm.
posting this, but it took 3 or 4 years to even be asked to do something like this. So just use your resources, use social media, use apps like Clubhouse. Like Clubhouse, you literally get in rooms with the biggest artists, biggest celebrities. When you're in that room, ask the right questions. Don't ask personal stuff, ask questions. And artists sometimes want to be asked questions that they don't even you know so I'm just saying, like, be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always looking for young people that want to work. Like, don't just come around because you want to be in front of an artist's face. The artists are not that cool when you're in front of them. Be in it because you really want to work in music and you want to develop artists and do all of that. I feel like social media has messed up the game a little bit because people just want to be in it to seem cool, but it's like there's real work to be done every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, I love that advice because I remember years ago I was somewhere and there was this celebrity guy and he was standing in the room and he was like in a room that we were all at, like at a party that we were all at. And a whole bunch of people that I knew just ran up to him, took a photo with him, and then ran away and talked to each other about having taken the photo with him. And I'm like, okay, you guys do that. I'm going to go talk to him.
Mhm.
Like he's a person. You talk to him. If you have questions, you want to learn something. But they were in it for the experience of having taken the photo with the famous guy. So I definitely see what you're saying, that there's some issues there.
Yeah,
I feel like there is an issue with both our business, music business, and like the film and television industry. Is because it's sexy, right? So there are people who get attracted to it because of the sexiness of it, and they don't see it as the business, right? They don't see it as the work and I love what you're saying, Caroline, just the hustle, right? You got to have hustle. Um,
exactly.
do you have any advice? I mean, I know people, Another thing people say a lot is confidence, right? You got to have confidence, and clearly Baroline has confidence. That's no issue. But I think especially for women, you know, I've had a lot of conversations with younger women who say, how do you get the confidence? How do you have the confidence to put yourself in rooms full of men, male artists, etc.?
I just feel like like for me, like I've always been myself. Like it don't matter who it is. Like let's say John Janik, he's like the head of the company. I be talking to John like I talk to everybody else, and I've seen people go up to John and they're like so scared. I'm like, once you talk to John, he's like a regular person. Steve Berman, like everybody. I just feel like everybody just wants to be so perfect, and sometimes when you're trying to be that, you're not that cool because you're just trying to be perfect. When you're yourself, people love you. So it's like I've always been myself and people have gravitated to me. I always been real. I always been how I'm in. Sometimes I do say, damn, I gotta be a little bit more professional because I'm too myself. But I just feel like you just have to be true to who you are as a person because at the end of the day, when you always covering it up to be like somebody else, one day you're just gonna get tired and you have to live to this persona where you created yourself to be. And I feel like everybody's just trying to be micro managed and be so perfect in this industry when everybody is a human, everybody wants to be
Mm-hmm.
successful, everybody just wants the same thing. So I feel like you should just, be yourself and be very pleasant with people. Because look how Nicole said, we met each other and now we work together. And this music industry is like a revolving door. And people never, I always say, people never forget how you make them feel, ever. No matter. And when you be rude to people, then you got to work with them again. Then you got to eat it up and be nice. So my thing is always be very nice to people. You may not. I don't like nothing nobody does ever. I'm always cranky, but I'm nice because I never know when I have to deal with them again. So I'm nice. I respect everybody. You just treat people with respect at all times because you also never know what somebody's going through sometimes. Sometimes we could be real cranky and nasty, but you might have had a hard day or your day started off wrong, but that's not somebody else's fault. And I'm learning to learn that. So just treat people with respect and know that that person is you too. So just, I'm big on respect. Just treat everybody the same. Nobody is bigger than you. Nobody is smaller than you. Everybody is the same. And you should be fine. This music industry is not that hard to get into. Just hustle and keep going. And people going to shut doors in your face and they're going to tell you, no, this is not for you. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. And you could make it happen. But if you give up because everybody tells you no, it wasn't for you. So you just got to keep going and keep challenging. Like, look where Nicole is now. Nicole was working at Def Jam like years ago, busting her ass, and now she has this big position, and it's paying off. And did Nicole? Did it happen overnight? It didn't.
Absolutely not. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, I've been going for now. It's like over 20 years now too, and I think that yeah, that hustle, that long term drive because it's a marathon, as Baroline was pointing out, but also in thinking about these young women getting in these rooms, especially in a male dominated space, some of it is also just having to get over your fears in a way. Like I think there's a lot of like tackling fears, because it's not that it's always the issue is it's not your comfort zone. It's like when you walk into a room and if you feel like, hey, I don't know, it's I'm the only woman in the room, or I don't know if I'm going to embarrass myself talking to this artist. That's because you're stepping out of your comfort zone. I've always welcomed, in a way, jumping out of my comfort zone and tackling fears because I just feel like it's the only way to grow, and that's really what you have to tell yourself. And that I think that some of that is where the confidence comes from too. Like, Baroline being herself, talking to people and just saying like, this is who I am, and seeing the response that, hey, everyone is like, I really vibe with you. I really love your energy. I want to talk to you more. When you get that positive response, then you start to realize, hey, what was there to be fearful of? And now you're comfortable. And the next time it's like, hey, I'm going to walk into this room and there's nothing to worry about. I'm just going to be me. And I'm going to say hello, and I'm going to introduce myself. When you start doing that, it becomes easier, and you're not fearful, and you build the confidence that way. So, I think that's my advice to the young women out there is like, you just have to take a leap and step out there and tackle that fear. And, if you work hard, if you know what you're talking about, if you're doing the work, you have nothing to fear.
And then the men will respect you when you come in the room and it's about work and it's not about he, I'm around this artist. Like they already know we don't play no games and we actually do the work. Like there's a lot of people that talk that they do the work in the industry, but there's few that actually do it. So when you step in the room in front of the guys and you're like, this is what I do, and you get it done, then they respect you and everybody around you respects you because they see what you do. So if you're gonna come in these rooms and you're gonna say that you want to do the job, actually do the job and everybody's gonna respect you.
Well, you guys, I think that is the perfect place to end this, the perfect note. So Baroline Diaz and Nicole Wyskoarko, thank you so much. This was such a delight to talk to both of you. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.